So here's another in-between with Peter Posen. We are here by the old city walls of Jerusalem, and today we're going to talk about fortifications. Fortifications, also called ramparts. So we're here right below the ramparts. You can see some of them behind me right here. And so we're going to talk about the different types of fortifications, the different parts of the fortifications, a little bit about the history of how fortifications developed over the centuries, and then we're going to do a little walk around here in Jerusalem, and we're going to talk about the old city and how it was built by Suleiman the Magnificent in the 1500s. Built on earlier fortifications by Herod the Great. So I'm going to start out with explaining various parts of the wall system, and I'm going to get my high-tech graphics here, and we're going to be pointing out the various methods that were used. So here are my graphics. I have a laser pointer here. So our first graphic here, maybe I'll just use a pencil. I don't know if you can see that little red dot. Much easier to use a pencil. Okay, so we're going to do low tech again, and we're going to use a pencil. So here you have the terra pisse. Terra means earth, and pisse means compress. So compressed earth. And in the Neolithic period and earlier, they had what we call mounds. They would have these dirt mounds, and they would build these dirt mounds around the city, and then they would cut a groove in one side of the mound and put a gate. So the defenders would be up on top of the hill, and as the enemy ran up to the top of the hill, they would poke them in the face with a sharp stick or a spear, and that worked okay for centuries. But when they invented slings, they would throw rocks at them, and arrows, then they built here a wall, either out of wood or out of stone. And it was a short wall they could just duck behind. So whenever the arrows or the rocks came their direction, they would duck down. And then later on they stuck sticks into the sides of the hill. Of course, the problem with this is erosion. So they would take a mortar or plaster and they would coat the hill, and then at the bottom of the hill there would be a trench to divert the water away to keep the erosion of the hill. And then someone come up with a bright idea of building a straight wall, a vertical wall, and that way the army can't run up and attack your city. They have to climb up using ladders. And terra pisse, which is earth walls, were also mud brick walls as well. So they built these out of stone or mud brick, and that all worked so well until the battering rams. Now battering rams, then they said, we need a glacis. A glacis is the same as a terra pisse, it's just another word. And basically it's an incline. And here we have an incline. First beat out of earth, and then they coated it with plaster to keep erosion, and then they would put a layer of stone. And so you had rubble underneath here and stone. But the problem with the battering rams, and they also started building towers on wheels, which they would roll up against the wall. This kept those two items away, so the siege engineers would dig this all out. And so another concept came into place is called a battered wall. And the battered wall is the glacis with solid stone. Now this took a lot more time to build, but the siege engineers had a very difficult time to undermine this and to dig this out to the main wall and to attack it with the towers or with the battering rams. So a battered wall is the one that has the incline here, but it's solid. Whereas a glacis wall is dirt, filled dirt with some type of top protection to divert the rainwater and keep it away from the wall. So these are the different wall systems from the early stage. And in a lot of the constructions you see in the Middle East and Europe, they follow these details. So now I'm coming into my second low tech. And up on the top here, let me get that out of there. Up on the top here, you have the buttress. The buttress, basically, you have these outcroppings here that actually just support the wall, that keep it from teeter-tottering. And these are all solid foundations. I call them buttricks because they butt up against the wall. And they create support along the wall. I don't have any examples nearby, but I do have the other example, which is bastons. The bastons is part of the wall that sticks out. This also helps support the wall, but the important thing is that the archers and the spears can attack the enemy at the base of the wall. If you're up here on the wall and you want to shoot an arrow at an enemy, you've got to literally lean over the wall and shoot straight down. With the bastons, the archers can be in line with the walls and attack whoever's at the base of the wall, climbing up those ladders or climbing up those ropes. So behind me, all along the wall here, we have bastons, but they are squared shaped bastons. Bastons come in different shapes and sizes. This is from another castle in Europe, how this comes out at angles. And these little things are where the archers shoot out, the little niches. So, move back here so we can talk to you. So the different structures of the wall, another one would be the towers. You know, towers are actual buildings that connect to the wall, but they're actually separate by themselves, and they tend to be higher up than the actual wall itself. Now there's also different types of walls. There's the cyclonian, the cyclone, cyclops, Psych means circular, and these stones were circular stones, extremely large. In Greek mythology, you have the Cyclops, which means a round eye. Ops means eye, and klops, psych means circle. So you have bicycle, that's two circles. And so psych means circle, and so these are circular stones, and they're usually extremely large, because the mythological creature Cyclops was a giant. So these are giant stones, and you can see those fortifications up at Tel Dan, at the old Israelite gate there. Extremely large stones piled up on top of each other. Then you have ashlar masonry, which are cut stones, and we see here in the walls that they're cut stones, squared out stones. And so those are the different types, and the terrapese, which of course is earth earth-made ramparts. And so later on we're going to be talking about various type of gates, but at this point we're going to go to the camera and zoom in on some of these bastons. Now we can just go along the wall here and get some let's get some wider shots of the bastons. Now this wall was built by Suleiman the Magnificent in the 1500s, and that just goes all along the city wall to the Tower of David. And in the background you can see the Tower of David. Now these fortifications were built on top of the fortifications that were part of King Herod's palace. And King Herod had a different style of stone called Herodian stone. And here we have some examples. You will see that the Herodian stones have a little border around it. Here you see the border going around the rough stone. This is a rough stone sticking out. And you got like a 4-5 inch, it looks like 10 centimeter borders around each of the stones. And these type of stones were the style used by Herod the Great. And we can see that these stones were the original stones from that time period. Here we go. So now we move along the walls of the city here. There's some more Herodian stones. And we get around this tree, we can see a tower. There we go. Alright, so let me tilt up and zoom in. And there you have a tower, which is a separate structure which is connected to the wall. But it's a fortified tower and is higher up than the rest of the wall. And if the army breaches the wall and gets into the city, you can always go up in the tower and